Welcome back to Speak More Fluently.
Great to be here.
So, have you ever had that feeling? You're hearing the English words someone's saying, but you suspect there's, well, something more going on underneath.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It happens all the time.
Today, we're going to unpack a really vital skill. How to understand what people truly mean, even when it's not spelled out.
Yeah, getting beyond just the surface level.
Exactly. And stick with us, because mastering this isn't just about better comprehension, though that's huge. It's about building much stronger connections.
Right. Avoiding those really frustrating misunderstandings, too. Whether you're on a call, in a meeting.
We're just chatting. So our mission today is pretty clear. Give you practical tools for active listening.
Yeah.
Really listening, not just hearing.
It's such a fascinating area because, communication is so much more than just dictionary words, isn't it?
Totally.
How things are said, those little pauses, the feeling behind the words, that's where so much meaning lies.
Okay, so it's like a hidden layer. Tell us more about why tuning into what's not said is so critical.
Well, think about this. Research actually shows that a huge chunk, like maybe over half, of the emotional side of a message comes from nonverbals, especially tone of voice.
Over half. Wow.
Yeah. So if you're only locked onto the words, you could be missing the main point, emotionally speaking. Someone says, "Oh, I'm fine," but the tone just screams stress.
Right. I know exactly what you mean.
Active listening helps you catch that mismatch.
So we're kind of becoming conversation detectives,
Mm.
looking for clues in how people speak English.
Yeah, something like that. And the payoff is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
When you really show someone you're listening, like you're not jumping in, you're fully there with them, that sends a massive signal. Respect, value.
I definitely feel that way when someone properly listens to me. Makes me feel, well, safer to share more.
Precisely. And practically speaking, those little hesitations, or maybe a sudden change in pace, that can tell you about doubts or feelings they haven't quite put into words.
So like someone agreeing to something, but their voice sounds a bit shaky.
Exactly. Maybe they're not fully on board but don't want to cause trouble. By noticing that, you get a much richer, more accurate picture of the situation.
Okay, this is really getting interesting. Could this skill, active listening, actually help us sidestep those awkward misunderstandings?
Oh, absolutely. If you pick up on that hesitation, that uncertainty, it gives you an opening.
An opening to do what?
To ask, to clarify. You can gently say something like, "I sense you might have some reservations." Or reflect back what you think you heard.
So you give them a chance to correct you.
Yes. Before a tiny misread turns into a big communication breakdown.
Okay, this makes so much sense. Active listening isn't just about being polite, it's a seriously practical tool. So what are the key parts? What do we actually need to do?
Well, the absolute foundation is full presence. Sounds basic, right?
Easier said than done sometimes.
Totally. In our world, with phones buzzing, emails popping up, it takes real discipline. It means, silencing the phone, closing those distracting browser tabs.
Really dedicating your mental space to the speaker?
Exactly, giving them your undivided attention.
But what about when your mind inevitably wanders? Mine does that all the time, even when I'm trying hard to focus.
Yeah, that happens to everyone. That's where mindful engagement comes in. It's about noticing when your mind drifts off.
Okay.
And then gently, without judging yourself, just bringing your focus back to their words, their tone. Think of it like hitting a little mental reset button.
Okay, so being present, mentally resetting when needed. What else are we listening for specifically?
We need to get really good at noticing those nonverbal signals we mentioned, especially on the phone where it's all auditory.
Yeah, no visual cues there.
Exactly. So you're listening for tone, speed. Is their voice kind of wavering? Are they talking really fast? Maybe excited or nervous? And silence. Silence can say so much. It might mean they're thinking, unsure, or maybe holding back a concern.
And obviously, if you are face-to-face, then you've got body language too, right? Like eye contact, posture.
Absolutely. That adds another whole layer. Leaning in, nodding, usually shows engagement. Crossed arms, avoiding eye contact, might signal disagreement or discomfort.
Good point. We're focusing broadly today, but those visual cues are definitely part of the package in person.
For sure. Okay, so you're present, you're noticing these signals. Now, how do you show the speaker that you're actually getting it?
Yeah, how do you close that loop?
That's where reflecting and paraphrasing are crucial. Paraphrasing is basically saying back what you heard, but in your own words.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. If someone says, I'm just finding it hard to keep up with the project's pace right now, you might say, okay, so it sounds like the speed of things feels a bit overwhelming at the moment.
Ah, I see. It's not just parroting them back.
No, exactly. It shows you've processed the meaning.
Yeah.
And it gives them a chance to say, well, not overwhelming, just challenging, or yes, exactly. It confirms understanding.
That makes sense. What about reflecting feelings? You mentioned that earlier.
Right. That's about acknowledging the emotion you're picking up on. So if someone sounds really stressed talking about a deadline, you could say something like, wow, it sounds like you're feeling pretty pressured by this deadline.
That feels empathetic, like you're acknowledging their experience.
Yes. It shows empathy, makes them feel heard on an emotional level. It can be incredibly powerful for building rapport, even diffusing tension.
I can see that.
And then a really useful step, especially at the end of a discussion, is summarizing. Just briefly recapping the main points, any decisions made.
To make sure everyone's on the same page about what happens next.
Exactly. Ensures clarity and alignment.
Okay, so we're listening, noticing, reflecting back. What about guiding the conversation a bit to dig deeper?
Great question. That brings us to asking open-ended questions. These are the questions that can't just be answered with a yes or no.
Like, not, are you happy? But, how do you feel about?
Precisely. Questions like, could you tell me a bit more about that? Or, what led you to that conclusion? They invite the speaker to elaborate, to share more detail, more context.
And you mentioned they can uncover hidden concerns.
Yes. Asking something like, what worries you most about this approach, can bring underlying issues to the surface that might otherwise stay hidden.
That's smart.
And they're fantastic for collaboration, too. Instead of just saying, here's the plan, you could ask, how do you think we could best handle this together? It invites input.
It definitely sounds more like a partnership. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. How do these skills change when we're on the phone, without the visuals?
That's a really important context. On the phone, your auditory listening skills have to work even harder.
Because you're missing all the body language stuff.
Right. So
Yeah.
you need to be hyper aware of tone, pace, those pauses, hesitations. Listen really carefully for specifics, names, numbers, project codes, things that are easy to mishear.
And if you sense they're unsure about a detail.
Don't hesitate to confirm it. Repeat it back. So just to double check, you said the reference number was AX47B.
Yeah, getting those details right is crucial over the phone.
Absolutely. And use
Okay.
those verbal nods, the okay, I see, They're vital on the phone to show you're tracking with them.
Like little signals that you're still connected.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And always, always confirm important figures or agreements at the end. Okay, so just to confirm, the meeting is moved to Tuesday at 3 p.m., and you'll send the revised document by then, correct?
Clear confirmation. Got it. What about voicemails? They can sometimes be a bit garbled or rushed.
Good point. With voicemails, try to jot down the core message, the main request, as you listen.
Okay.
Then, when you call back, you can start by saying something like, hi, just returning your call. I understand you're asking about X, is that right? It
Yeah.
immediately gets you both on the same page.
That's a good tip. Saves time. Now, what about those trickier conversations? Maybe someone's upset or frustrated.
Ah, yes. In those moments, reflecting empathy becomes absolutely key.
How's
If a client sounds really stressed about, say, a delayed shipment, acknowledging their feeling is crucial. I can hear how frustrating this delay must be for you. Let's figure out what we can do.
So you're validating their emotion before jumping to solutions.
Exactly. It shows you understand their perspective, their feeling, not just the logistical problem. It can really change the tone of the conversation.
Okay, so we understand the what and why. How do we actually get better at this? What are some concrete strategies?
Well, one technique I find really helpful is structured note-taking. Try a simple two-column approach.
2 columns.
Yeah. On one side, jot down the factual stuff, names, dates, key decisions. On the other side, note down your inferences, their tone, potential underlying feelings, questions you have.
Oh, I like that. Separating fact from feeling or interpretation.
Exactly. You could even use little symbols for emotions, like a smiley face for positive, question mark for uncertainty.
That could be quite useful, especially for remembering later. What else?
Another one is mental mapping. As you listen, try to visualize the conversation.
Visualize it. How?
Think of the main topic in the center. Then, as they talk, create branches for subpoints, questions that come up, maybe action items. It helps you see the connections and the overall structure.
Like creating a mind map in your head as you go.
Pretty much. It helps organize the information flow. Also, and this is really important, develop your cultural awareness.
How does culture play into listening?
Well, Things like silence mean very different things in different cultures. In some, it's a sign of respect, time for thought. In others, it might signal confusion or disagreement.
Ah, that's a crucial point. So you need to be mindful of potential cultural differences in communication styles.
Absolutely. How quickly people interject, how direct they are. Being aware helps you interpret signals correctly and respond appropriately.
Okay. And you mentioned empathy before. How do we actively practice that?
One simple way is to just pause before you respond. Take a second and ask yourself, how might they be feeling right now? If I were in their position, what would my perspective be?
Stepping into their shoes, basically.
Exactly. And then use supportive language. Phrases like, that sounds really challenging, or I appreciate you sharing that with me. It shows you're trying to understand their emotional state.
So it's about engaging our emotional intelligence actively.
Got it. Now, what trips people up? What are the common barriers to actually doing all this?
Oh, there are a few common ones. Interrupting is a big one.
Guilty. Sometimes I get excited about my point.
We all do. A simple trick is to consciously count, like 1, 2 in your head after they finish speaking before you jump in, just a small beat.
That little pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would help. What else?
Judging too quickly. Forming an opinion before they've even finished their thought. The key is to consciously try to withhold judgment. Remind yourself. Hear them out fully first.
Okay, keep an open mind.
Another big one is planning your response while they're still talking. Your brain is busy crafting your brilliant reply instead of actually absorbing their message.
Yes, the internal monologue getting ready. Exactly. Try to catch yourself doing that. Focus back on them. If you have a thought, quickly jot down a keyword, but don't mentally check out of their conversation to plan yours.
Note it down briefly, then refocus. Good strategy.
And finally, the obvious one, external distractions.
Yeah.
Phones, buzzing, emails, pinging. Try your best to control your environment for important talks. Quiet space, maybe a do not disturb signal if needed.
Makes sense. Minimize the noise, both external and internal. Okay, let's try putting this all together. Can you walk us through a scenario? Say, like the example from the source. A client calls, needs longer payment terms due to cash flow issues, but also wants to place a new order.
Okay, sure. So the phone rings, you answer warmly, professionally. First step,
Yeah.
focus. Give them your full attention.
No distractions.
As they start explaining, maybe you notice a slight hesitation when they mention cash flow or the payment terms. Make a mental note of that. Use those back channels. Okay, I understand.
Show you're engaged.
When they explicitly ask for, say, 60 days instead of 30, you paraphrase and clarify. Okay, so just to make sure I've got this right, for this specific situation, you're requesting a 60-day payment term instead of our standard 30.
Confirming the specifics.
Then empathy. I appreciate you being upfront about the cash flow situation. I understand things can be tight sometimes. Let's see how we can make this work.
Acknowledging their difficulty.
Right. Then they mention the new order. Acknowledge that positively. Okay, great. We appreciate your continued business. Let's get that sorted for you too.
Keep things moving forward.
And finally, summarize. All right, so to recap, we've agreed on a temporary 60-day term for this invoice, and I'll process that new order for you right away. I'll send an email confirming the updated terms for this instance. Does that sound correct?
Perfect. Clear, empathetic, confirms everything. That really shows how it all works together. So, bringing it back to our listeners, improving their English, how does mastering this active listening really benefit them specifically?
Well, for English learners, the benefits are really significant. First, comprehension just skyrockets. You start picking up on those nuances, the tone, the implied meaning that go way beyond just vocabulary.
So you understand the real message better.
Exactly. Second, confidence grows. When you can accurately summarize, reflect, and clarify, you reduce those painful misunderstandings. That makes you feel much more secure in your interactions.
Fewer communication breakdowns means more confidence. Makes sense.
And third, and maybe most importantly, it deepens your relationships, showing genuine attention, demonstrating empathy that builds trust and connection, whether it's with colleagues, clients, or friends.
So it's not just about technical language skill, it's about connection.
Precisely. Active listening really elevates your communication from just exchanging words to having, well, richer, more meaningful dialogues. It's about understanding the whole person, not just the words they use.
This has been incredibly insightful. So to kind of wrap up, active listening means full engagement, noticing those subtle cues, reflecting, understanding back, asking smart questions. It really is a powerful toolkit.
It truly is. And here's a final thought, maybe a challenge for you listening. In your very next conversation in English, try to consciously practice just one or two of these things.
Just one or two.
Yeah. Maybe focus on paraphrasing or really tune into the speaker's tone, see what difference it makes. Notice how much more you understand, how the connection feels different. You might be really surprised by what you uncover when you start listening to what isn't being said explicitly.
A fantastic challenge. Thanks so much for this deep dive today.
My pleasure. Happy listening.